Hello everybody, FAI here, or I here, and welcome back to another Accureye Talk Serial. And in today's Accureye Talk Serial, we're going to be revisiting a bit of a topic that I might have touched on in the past, but I want to retouch on it and kind of give my opinion on should you be aggressive or should you not be aggressive. A lot of us in the game are very, very content with being passive and very, very content with being just a camper, if you will, and waiting until like the final placements or so, just so that we can place well. But the question I have to ask you is, are you too passive? Are you too, non-compliant on committing to a fight? Because I feel that passive players, or the placement warriors, as you're known as you would be known as, is just not a really good place to be. And as it is for many diamond players or many pros, especially when you look at people like Cypher, PK, or someone like Ninja, even someone like Benji Fishy, and those are just to name a few Fortnite players, they're all very aggressive to some degree. So, the question remains, is being passive not good for your development as a player? Are we as players too passive? And my answer to that is yes. I believe that to a degree, many of us are just too passive for our own game plan and for our own game. I mean, look at some of my friends that I play with. Now, I'm not going to name them, but, some of my friends are very, very passive. They're very, very to the degree of going to not take chances on an attack, not take many fights if they can. And they do this because, of course, they don't want to be, taken out quickly. But I feel that aggression is really a good way to just get a good potential idea of where your levels stand. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to have, great RNG all the time. And sometimes you're going to be very, very bad at RNG. In fact, in this case, this first match here, you see me, I'm getting bad RNG to a degree. I mean, yes, I have a great gun, but, let's face it, that great gun is just not good enough to take down these first few people that try to aggress on me. And, it's kind of like that's the way it goes. Sometimes you just have bad RNG, and in this case, I get started with a bad RNG of having a great armor, but not a great weapon. And, and of course, it happens. Now, this team wasn't bad at being aggressive. This team was great at being aggressive when they could. But the problem was just the fact that they didn't have a, they didn't have a good, if you will, a good way of, managing their, we didn't have a good RNG at the beginning. We all were kind of in a placement of being in a bad place, if you will, and, being in a hard place to start up and get a good start, if you would, because, we just didn't have the RNG for it. And, as it is, of course, there are times where, RNG does play a huge factor in the role of, will you win or will you lose? And in this case, I really wish I didn't have a triple take. I wish I had something else like a G7 because, while I'm trying to get a good shot here and I'm trying to get these people down and off my team's back, it's just a matter of, we're not in a good RNG place. I mean, of course I get lucky. I get a good knock off this one person, and then of course their Wraith just comes out of nowhere, and as you'll see, they were great at being aggressive, and they knew how to press pressure, which is something I think aggression really does play out in this game, is when you are playing passively or as a placement warrior, you're mostly not worrying about putting pressure on your enemies. You're not giving pressure to your enemies, and of course, because you're not giving pressure or putting pressure on anyone on the enemy side, you are ending up with basically just being complacent with placing and not really getting into a fight, which means that in many ways, if you're going through ranked mode like I do, you may not climb very high in rank because you're not going to be, ready for the aggression. You're not going to be ready for for the upped difficulty. In quick play, everyone is a little more passive. Everyone is a little more like, we're going to camp, we're going to try to place, we're going to try to win. Because they want to have fun. They're not going to try to pub stomp everybody. And I think this is something that happens when you are playing the game. Is it gets to the point where everyone becomes very, very passive on the game, and not everyone is going to be aggressive. Now, in this game, of course, I get lucky, and, I get another team that's actually good at applying pressure. We're good at being aggressive, and, we kind of stomp a lot of people. In fact, if we don't get to the very end of this video or the very end of this match, I will tell you that we get second place on this match because we were very, very aggressive. We really did stomp everyone out, even though I made a few errors that had to be revived a few times. I had to be revived twice here. If we don't get through the whole match, I will already tell you I had to be revived twice here because maybe I got a little too aggressive. But I feel that by being an aggressive player and by being, ambitious to try and get as many limbs as you can, you apply a lot of pressure that most players are not looking into. Most players are not going to be ready for. And because most players are not going to be ready for that kind of pressure, it means that they're going to be very, very passive. They're not going to be very up in the battles. They're not going to be very, very up in your face. They're not even going to probably be very, very, like, oh, this person's trying to take me down. I should try to take them down as well, or I should try to counter with some more pressure on this this enemy of mine. And, that's something that does happen. I mean, obviously, it's something that does happen, and, I get it. But I feel that when you're just too passive, especially on the game, then, you're not going to be applying enough pressure to be good at getting high ranks. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't be good at getting high ranks. You can get high rank, by being passive. But I feel that by being too passive, you just won't apply enough pressure to take somebody down. Like here, this person tried to throw a grenade at me, which was good on them. I mean, I'm not going to lie, that was good on them, and they kind of were not caught onto the guard of what I was doing. But here, I make my first mistake, and this is not me being passive. This was me trying to reposition so I could get a better view on who this bloodhound that was coming in, and just get more on the aggression side. At first, I think my team is going in for the to take down this bloodhound, and then this bloodhound manages to catch me right here on this reload here. And as you can see, like I said, he caught me on a reload here where I'm just not in a good position, and then of course, their team just comes in out of nowhere and takes the ride off me for that moment. Well, my team came in and actually helped me at the end, but that was the first down I made a mistake on. But as you'll see, I think that being too passive on the game means that you're not going to be able to carry the aggression that happens in ranked mode. In fact, I think many of us are just too passive on the game. And many of us are too focused on another video, which I'll be talking about, which is how to get better at aim. And I'll touch base on this a little bit here on this video, which is, if you want to get better at aim, first of all, stop ADSing. The biggest mistake every player makes, including me, when it comes to aim and being better at aim, is just ADSing. It's okay to ADS because it will allow you to basically control the spread a little bit, but you shouldn't ADS if you can help it. A lot of times, if you catch an ADS player, you're going to end up being the person, you're going to end up hindering your movement. And that's not good. But at the end of the day, let's face it, the main thing is to worry about, of course, being better at the being better at the game, and being able to control your hip fire movement. And I think if you can work on being only using hip fire during medium to short range fights, you're going to find a lot more success as a player compared to being a ADS warrior. And I'm going to call you an ADS warrior. I'm going to call these people an ADS warrior. They're called I call these people ADS warriors because they focus mostly on lowering the spread so that they can control the bloom or the recoil a little more. But at the end of the day, that's not something you want to do. You want to be able to learn to control the recoil from a hipfire standard and from the hipfire point. Now, this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to learn how to control hipfire. It's not going to be easy to learn how to control recoil by just hip firing. It's going to take some time to get used to that. But I believe that if you become better at learning to hip fire and learning to control recoil, it'll become much easier for you as a warrior, as a player, to be better at aiming and to have aiming not phase you. In fact, to some degree, I would almost guarantee you that by learning to hip fire and learning to control the recoil, you will become a much better aimer than you ever thought you would be. And I believe this is true. This is something that doesn't come from me exactly, and it comes from coaching that I've been having. I've been taking coaching from Valorant. I've been taking coaching for Overwatch. I've been taking coaching for Fortnite. And every time, a lot of the same issues that I have with my aim are the same thing that I should be having, that I shouldn't be having with every other FPS game out there. Now, again, we'll talk about this in a dedicated FPS or aim video that'll be coming soon. And I'll talk about that completely in detail. But the main thing I want you to know is, 1, keep your crosshair up. Watch your crosshair placement. And if you can, make sure that your crosshairs are always going to be within head to shoulder range of a character. Now, this may not be easy with Apex Legends or Fortnite, because you are going to be looking down to try and grab items and grab things that you see on the floor. But, again, this is something that you should work on. But again, we'll talk about ADS and stuff in a future video and in a dedicated video. This is just, should you get aggressive or should you not, or should you be a passive player? And as I've said before, I think you should be an aggressive player. I think being aggressive means that you're going to have more chances to win more fights. You're going to be able to destroy a lot more of your competition. Now, does this mean that you're going to become, does this mean that you're always going to have luck on your side? No, you're not going to always have luck on your side. But don't give up on being aggressive if you can help it. At the end of the day, I would say don't be giving up on being aggressive if you can help it. Don't end up like being scared of the storm if you have the chance to. I mean, in level 1 of the storm is not going to hurt you as much as it will. And as much as it should. At the end of the day, I'll give you the fact that at the end of the day, you're going to have much more luck, like trying to fight in the storm and gatekeep people out if you can help it. Again, though, it's not going to be perfect immediately. You're not going to have a decent game right off the bat. In fact, it's going to take some time to learn how to gatekeep these people and to learn to be a little more aggressive. Now, if you want to learn to be aggressive and you don't want to have to worry about, falling so much or losing so often, then I would suggest that you play someone like Gibraltar or Caustic in Apex Legends. The reason I suggest Gibraltar and Caustic in Apex Legends is because they both have a forward fight perk. This means that they'll take 10% less damage than everyone else. Which also means that at the end of the day, Apex Legends players, it means that at the end of the day, you're going to have less of a, problem with getting damaged, or getting knocked often. And this does happen. I mean, don't be afraid of it. I'm going to tell you, don't be afraid of it. Like I said, you know, here I get a little too over aggressive, and of course I try to balance out, but it doesn't work out in my favor. And that's okay, you know, this does happen. From time to time, if you're too aggressive, you're going to sometimes get knocked, especially like, in this case, I was matched up with an Octane. Octane's going to run circles around me compared to someone like, you know, someone like Caustic. You know, Caustic, I can run circles around him. Someone like Gibraltar, I can run circles around him. So, you know, again, that's the main thing you gotta think about is how, you know, does my style of play affect, you know, everything that goes around me. And, you know, like I said, it's easy to give up on being aggressive and going back to, oh, I should be passive. I should be, you know, someone who's not going to go for much aggression. I'm not going to go for every fight that I hear. But I think that's the problem, is when we are too passive and we're not going for fights when we should, we end up not applying enough pressure on the later on fights. Sure, if we do, you know, for instance, not get aggressive and we just work on placing and being a placement warrior, we're going to end up with being more set on being top 3, top 5, top 10. But I feel that this is the problem most of us players have, is that we're not aggressive enough. And because we're not aggressive enough, you know, we're not applying enough pressure, especially when we get into ranked mode and all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, I should be, you know, gold tier, or I should be platinum tier, you know, platinum tier level player. This is not true. You're not going to always be platinum level player if you go into, you know, ranked mode acting like a placement warrior. I mean, you know, let's face it, that's not going to happen. It's not true. It's not going to happen. You're never going to see success in that same fashion or in that same way. And, you know, unfortunately, that's the truth and the nature that we live in when it comes to being a placement warrior for say. You know, and, you know, again, I don't think this is a big issue that we see very often with players who are never going to touch rank. Like, if you're never going to touch rank, then yeah, you can always play placement warrior, you can always be a camper, you can always just, you know, if you want to, you can always just take your time and hope that by placing somewhere in the top 10, top 3, top 5, top 1, top 2, you know, you're going to win. And, you know, again, this is mostly because, let's face it, at the end of the day, competitive versus casual. Casual, you're never going to have those people who are going to be pub stompers. In fact, when you do run into a pub stomper, it's going to be quick. It's going to be fast. These guys are going to pressure you like these people are going to pressure you like no tomorrow. And, you know, of course, when that happens, it happens. But at the end of the day, if you're going to try to be competitive, and if you're going to be, you know, someone who wants to be high rank, I think at the end of the day, the answer is just stop trying to be passive. Don't be passive. Get aggressive. If you hear a fight, go for it. You know, take a chance and go for it. You never know. You may end up having people say, oh, you're aimbotting, or you got so super lucky there because of something or another. But, again, I think that at the end of the day, if you want to be high ranked, you've got to be aggressive. You've got to not be afraid of fights. You've got to take a chance to really push in for something, you know. And don't be afraid of it. Like, you know, this is something where I'm showing you all that you shouldn't be afraid of, you know, what you're doing, what's going on. I mean, you know, take what you need, especially once you finish a fight. Don't be afraid to just run away. Don't just run away from, you know, something. Take what you need and get everything you need to continue fighting and continue to push and win the against these players. Because, again, in quick play, you're going to have a lot more casual players. You're going to have a lot more players who are going to be, you know, super passive, super just, like, we're going to wait in the ring, we're going to wait for players to, you know, to fin out, we're going to wait for things to fin out. But again, the more passive you are, you're not putting pressure onto the fight. You're not putting pressure onto the game, onto their game plan, and you're basically throwing everyone else into the loop of thinking like, oh well, it's going to be easy. I'm going to have easy time, or it's going to be like I'm going to have something happen where like it's going to not be hard on me. I'm going to basically end up winning the game by being passive. This is not, like I said, the truth. This is not the case for most players, and that's kind of, in my opinion, why you should be aggressive. Anyway, with that being said, thank you everybody for joining me today on this video. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button, get subscribed, hit the bell notification, because I know you want to know when my next video drops next. Thank you everybody for joining me on this video. Thank you for watching this video. I am live on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/FA_EYE or I. I'm live on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday for sure. Wednesday and Saturday, I'm live for about 3 to 4. Wednesday and Saturday, I'm live for about 4 to 5 hours, sometimes a little bit longer. Thursdays, I'm usually live for about 2 to 3 hours. And Monday and Tuesday, I'm usually live for about 2 to 3 hours. But with that having been said, thank you everybody for joining me today on this video. Thank you for watching this video. And until the next one, everybody, this is FAI or I, signing out and saying farewell, everyone.